Witnesses to the ambitions of thousands, there existed a man whose name was never written in the annals of history but whispered in the alleys and back streets. His name was Jayan, the ghost of the city, the master of deception, and the cleverest thief the world had ever seen. Jayan was not an ordinary criminal. He was a man of intelligence, skill, and a mind sharper than the finest blade. He never stole from the poor, never hurt the innocent, and never left a trace. For years, the police tried to catch him, but he was always a step ahead. To him, life was a grand game of chess, and every heist was a calculated move. In the heart of a sprawling city where towering skyscrapers stood as silent one evening, while sipping tea in a dimly lit cafe, Jayan overheard a conversation between two businessmen discussing an auction taking place in 3 days. The prized possession, a legendary sapphire known as the Eternal Star. Valued at over $50 million, it was the most coveted gem in the country. A challenge worthy of his talents. Jayan spent the next 2 days planning meticulously. The auction house was a fortress, laser security, biometric access, and heavily armed guards. But Jayan was not a mere burglar, he was an artist of crime. He studied the building's blueprint, its security patterns, and the shifts of the guards. He discovered that the sapphire was being kept in a reinforced vault on the top floor, secured by 3 layers of defense, a code-protected entrance, a temperature-sensitive floor, and a biometric scanner that required the owner's fingerprint. His plan needed to be perfect. On the night of the auction, Jayan arrived disguised as an aristocrat from another country, his presence unnoticed amidst the sea of wealthy guests. As the bidding war for the sapphire reached an insane amount, Jayan made his move. Phase 1, he set off a silent distraction. A few blocks away, a minor explosion occurred in an abandoned warehouse. The security at the auction house became tense, with some guards being sent to check on the commotion. Phase 2, Jayan manipulated the security system remotely. With a tiny device concealed in his cufflink, he created a loop in the CCTV footage, making it appear as though everything was normal. Phase 3, he made his way toward the vault, slipping past the remaining guards like a shadow. The code-protected entrance was tricky, but Jayan had already found a way to hack into the system. He entered the stolen code and watched as the massive steel doors slid open. The temperature-sensitive floor was his next challenge. But Jayan had studied every detail. He threw a vial of liquid nitrogen ahead of him, temporarily freezing the sensors and allowing him to cross safely. The final step, the biometric scanner. He needed the fingerprint of the auction house owner. This was where Jayan's true genius unfolded. Hours earlier, he had shaken hands with the owner in a calculated introduction. In his glove was a thin layer of silicone that lifted the owner's fingerprint. Now, he pressed it against the scanner, and within seconds, the vault welcomed him inside. The Eternal Star was his. But fate had its own plans. As Jayan stepped out, an unexpected variable arose. A second explosion shook the city, this time, a real one. Panic spread, and the security system reset itself, activating all alarms. The guards returned, guns drawn. Jayan moved fast. He sprinted toward the rooftop, dodging bullets and leaping across terraces. The city lights glowed beneath him as helicopters roared in the distance. He had anticipated a chase, but not this soon. Using a zipline he had prepared earlier, he glided to an adjacent building, his heart pounding with the thrill of the escape. For hours, the police searched every corner of the city, but Jayan was nowhere to be found. The eternal star had vanished. A week later, in a small village by the sea, an old man sat at a street cafe, reading the newspaper. The headlines screamed about the missing sapphire and the most daring heist in history. The old man smiled. His features, once belonging to Jayan, were now altered, his hair grey, his beard long, his identity lost in the whispers of time. No one would ever find him, for Jayan was a ghost. As he took another sip of tea, he looked at the horizon and whispered to himself, "Never forget possibilities." Moral of the story: true intelligence lies not just in skill but in the ability to think ahead, adapt, and stay one step ahead of challenges. Every situation, no matter how impossible, holds hidden possibilities. Those who dare to see them can turn the odds in their favor. Never limit yourself. Creativity, courage, and resilience can unlock even the most tightly sealed doors. Never forget possibilities.